if he can also be in the rest of the call, because he may have another events to go to. Anyway, so let him present and we'll take it over.
Okay, let me start. Okay.
Reza, if you are there, then we can start.
Okay, let me do the opening first. So, thank you Paresa dan Faras, and also Mr. Dilip, and hopefully Bu Miming has already joined, but I haven't seen her name. So let me do the opening first. Selamat siang semua, apa kabar? Salam sehat dan profit selalu. Hari ini kita akan mengadakan webinar edukasi dengan emiten PT Bumi Resources Tbk atau Bumi, yang akan diwakilkan oleh Mr. Dilip Srivastava selaku Direktur dan Corporate Secretary, dan Bapak Ahmad Reza Wijaya, Vice President Investor Relation dan Chief Economist dari Bumi. Dan hari ini juga saya akan didampingin sebagai co-host oleh Farhan, Equity Research Analyst dari Samuel Sekuritas. Sebelumnya kita disclaimer dulu ya, bahwa pembahasan saham di sini hanya bersifat sebagai referensi atau bahan pertimbangan dan bukan perintah beli atau jual, karena setiap keuntungan dan kerugian menjadi tanggung jawab dari pelaku pasar modal. Perseroan Bumi awalnya didirikan pada 26 Juni 1973 dengan nama PT Bumi Modern yang bergerak dalam bidang industri perhotelan dan pariwisata. Setelah melakukan penawaran saham perdana pada tahun 1990 dengan kode saham Bumi, PT Bumi Modern Tbk itu bertransformasi dan memasuki industri minyak, gas alam, dan pertambangan pada tahun 1998. Seiring dengan pesatnya pertumbuhan industri pertambangan nasional, PT Bumi Modern Tbk memutuskan untuk melakukan ekspansi usaha di bidang pengolahan batubara dan barang tambang lainnya. Mr. Dilip Srivastava bergabung dengan Grup Bakri tahun 1997. Beliau menjabat sejumlah posisi senior di perusahaan milik Grup Bakri, antara lain sebagai Direktur PT Bakri Brothers Tbk, Trans Bakri, dan PT Bumi Resources Tbk. Mengembangkan tugas di bagian investor relation dan perencanaan perusahaan atau pengembangan bisnis di perusahaan induk PT Bakri Brothers termasuk Bakri Telkom Tbk. Beliau juga meraih gelar Master of Business Administration dari The Indian Institute of Management IIMA Ahmedabad, India, dan Bachelor of Commerce BComs dari Kanpur University. Dan sedangkan Bapak Ahmad Reza Wijaya saat ini menjabat sebagai VP Investor Relation dan Chief Economist dari PT Bumi Resources Tbk. Dalam kesehariannya, beliau bertugas sebagai analis dalam bidang yang berkaitan dengan pasar modal, investasi, makroekonomi, dan divisi Investor Relation. Ia juga bertugas sebagai staf khusus CEO di bidang ekonomi, keuangan, dan investasi. Gelar beliau itu diraih dari Universitas Katolik Parahyangan, sedangkan gelar magister dan doktor berhasil ia raih dari Northeastern University dan University of Carolina dari Amerika Serikat. Baiklah, tanpa berlama-lama lagi, mari kita mulai webinar yang akan dipandu oleh Farhan sebagai co-host di bagian ini. Silakan untuk Mr. Dilip, Mr. Reza, dan Faras untuk start sesi ini. Silakan, thank you.
Ya, terima kasih cerita. Selamat siang semua. Selamat siang, semoga semuanya dalam keadaan sehat. Sebelumnya saya juga ingin mengucapkan selamat datang juga kepada Bu Miming Satyono selaku owner dari PT Samuel Sekuritas Indonesia. Halo, selamat siang Bu Miming.
Siang Bu Miming, makasih udah support kita juga.
Oke, halo.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Miming, dan juga saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih juga kepada Pak Dilip dan juga Pak Reza selaku perwakilan dari PT Bumi Tbk untuk mengadakan webinar ini. Mungkin sebelumnya teman-teman sudah sedikit tahu ya mengenai Bumi. Jadi Bumi itu merupakan perusahaan berada di bidang batubara. Per first half kemarin itu mereka memiliki reserve sebanyak 2,4 billion metric ton, dan mereka juga berhasil meningkatkan produksi di first half itu menjadi 37,7 million metric ton, dan melalui performance yang lebih bagus dari kontraktor dan juga adanya less repo dari KPC. Dan juga kalau kita lihat kemarin di first half itu ya, unit cost itu berkurang, akhirnya ini mengakibatkan cash cost mereka juga berturun, stripping ratio berturun, sehingga cash margin mereka juga meningkat. Ini merupakan achievement yang sangat bagus sekali dari Bumi, dan ini hanya sekilas yang akan kita bahas mungkin pada siang hari ini bersama perwakilan dari Bumi, yaitu Pak Dilip dan juga Pak Reza. Tanpa mengundur lebih lama lagi, floor-nya akan saya berikan kepada Pak Reza dan juga Pak Dilip untuk memberikan presentasi dan juga penjelasan yang menyeluruh dan komprehensif tentang Bumi. Kepada Pak Reza dan Pak Dilip, waktu dan tempat saya persilahkan.
Baik, terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Ya, Pak Dilip,
silakan.
Well, thank you, Ibu Rita. Terima kasih banyak.
Sama-sama.
And to all participants. Ibu Miming, it's nice to see you, that you are here. Bhumi made an earnings call for first half 24 on 15th of August, hosted by CLSA. Mumkin, many of you may have already accessed it. You would have seen the presentation. There was a recording of the call that was also circulated, so all the details are there. So I would request, Iburita, I would request if Samuel could do their presentation, then Reza can cover the earnings call briefly in Bahasa Indonesia, and thereafter we can take Q&As. Hopefully we can conclude in 1 hour. Bhumi prospects look bright. First half results have been encouraging in spite of challenges. Hopefully the second half could be better, but challenges continue. And we see bright prospects in the future. And we see value addition outside coal also. And one of the most major assets which can increase value for Bhumi is also BRMS. Some of you may be familiar with it. They have Chitrapalu and are now exploring Gorontalo in gold. The quarter 2 results versus quarter 1, I think they've doubled production. And we think that whether it's the end of the year or next year and the year after, our prospects look bright. Maybe at the end of the year, we could consider announcing some of the new non-coal projects which are in progress of various discussions. And we have not been in touch with the retail community for a year and a half. We have seen ADA syndicate encouraging response this week, reflected in the share price. Hopefully, after this, you may wish to take a closer look at Bhumi, but the investment call is yours. We see bright prospects for ourselves. So, Fariza, over to you. Silakan, Pak.
Oke, Pak. Terima kasih, Pak Sigrid, atas introduction-nya dari Diskus kami. Ibu Rita, terima kasih sudah membuka acara ini. Mas Farul Paras dan Ibu Miming tadi, Pak. Dan terima kasih atas kehadiran di sini. Saya langsung aja dalam presentasi yang sudah disiapkan di dalam file ya. Nah, saya tidak karena saya itu ada ini ada di sana tuh gitu.
Tunggu. Frankly yang share screen untuk presentasinya siapa? Oh, Frankly yang share. Okay.
Ini aku coba bantu share screen ya. Pakai ini kemarin dapat
ya.
Ya, saya bantu.
Ya, itu juga Pak ya.
Bisa di full screen nggak?
Full screen ya, bentar ya. Mana ya? Sorry, bentar, ini agak tutup nih soalnya.
Iya.
Oke, di aku full screen. Bentar ya.
Ini pakai PDF ya?
Sorry. Close ya. Bentar ya.
Baik, jadi sementara kurang lebih agendanya seperti ini. Jadi kita akan overview sedikit mengenai PT Bumi Resources BPK buat mungkin ada teman-teman yang baru bergabung dan tahu lebih dalam yang sementara ini memang tidak banyak tahu ini. Kemudian kita juga akan kasih lihat mengenai cadangan seperti yang dibicarakan dengan Mas tadi.
dengan cadangan dan sumber daya. Kemudian kita akan update sedikit mengenai financial yang ada. Kemudian nanti ada guidance dari kami. Dan kemudian data-data mengenai operasional dan financial. Silakan.
Next kali langsung ke halaman.
Ini udah. Ya. Oke, kita bisa ke
Nah, ini dia.
halaman pertama. Ya, oke. Ini overview. Ya, sekali lagi saya ulang, mungkin ada yang sudah paham sekali, ada yang masih belum tahu, masih berapa ini. Jadi bumi itu terdiri dari KTC dan Arupi, yang KTC Kausi Makro dan Arupi Indonesia. Yang keduanya aktif yang sebagai sekarang produsen batu bara, salah satu yang terbesar di Indonesia. Dan kalau digabungkan antara KTC dan Arupi, di under bumi berarti juga merupakan produsen terbesar di Indonesia. Untuk KPC sendiri itu the largest, terbesar dalam hal batu bara yang ditambang dan diekspor. Nah, termasuk juga salah satu terbesar dunia. Nah, kemudian produksi yang telah kita lakukan dari tahun 2003 hingga sekarang di 2023. Di titik 2023 ini kita mencapai 78 juta metrik ton, yang tadinya di awal tahun 2003 produksinya hanya sekitar 6 juta ton. Kemudian di balik itu masih ada yang saya disebutkan, masih ada cadangan sekitar 2,4 miliar metrik ton. Kemudian 6,8 miliar metrik ton itu merupakan sumber daya. Artinya cadangan masih bisa diambil dalam tahap yang sedemikian cepat. Sumber daya masih harus.
Frankly, itu gambarnya tolong diganti, jangan disclaimer. Di next lah. Ya, ini bukan Pak Reza yang ininya.
Iya.
Oke. Ya, sorry, silakan Pak.
Oke. Ya. Kemudian pada perkembangan selanjutnya, Bumi Resources itu pada tahun 2013 telah dipecah menjadi dua lini bisnis, yaitu di bidang batu bara dan membangun batu bara. Tepatnya adalah di bidang bisnis pertambangan metalurgi. Nah, kemudian next, ini kita sekilas hanya next minute dan ya. Ini sekilas mengenai struktur dari perusahaan di bumi yang tadi seperti saya sebutkan. Di Bumi Resources PT Bumi Resources Tbk sekarang menjadi dua, dipecah menjadi yang satu mengenai energi di bawah coal, oil and gas, yang kedua di bawah mineral atau non-coal. Di bawah mineral itu sendiri kita saudara sudah punya yang namanya Bumi Resources Mineral, mungkin teman-teman semua juga berlepas saham, karena itu merupakan entity sendiri, entity terbuka, listed company di Bursa Efek Indonesia. Nah, kemudian mungkin di dalam pengembangannya nanti ke depan kita juga akan membutuhkan untuk goal diversification, ya. Jadi artinya di luar dari dua ini, kemudian memang itu merupakan salah satu syarat dari pemerintah untuk Indonesia secara nasional membangun satu FDRI batubara yang tidak dikemas hanya dalam batubara yang dijual untuk pembangkit listrik. Tentunya harus dimodifikasi atau dimodifikasi untuk diubah menjadi nilai tambah bermanfaat bagi bangsa Indonesia. Oke, kemudian next. Ini yang tadi kita saya jabarkan lebih jauh mengenai sumber daya dan sumber daya yang kiri, cadangan hasil yang kanan. Total yang tadi disebutkan, cadangan kita ada 2,4 miliar ton, masih banyak sekali. Kalau dibagi dengan yang produksi sekarang sebesar 80 juta ton misalnya, itu masih cukup lama, ya. Tahun kita produksi 80 juta ton, cadangan kita masih 2,4 miliar ton. kemudian di sebelah kanan itu terus sumber daya. Berarti itu artinya kita masih melakukan penelitian, eksplorasi dan sebagainya untuk mendapat satu titik apakah nilai keekonomisan dari batu bara itu layak untuk ditambang atau tidak. Itu kita punya sekitar 6,8 miliar ton batu bara yang bisa dikembangkan lebih jauh. Oke, kemudian next. Terima kasih. Oke, ini financial update. Saya akan kasih poin-poinnya dulu. Dari sisi produksi, itu total produksi yang dilakukan di first half, di data first half. Jadi first half year on year kita perbandingkan, itu di tahun 2024 sampai bulan Juni kemarin produksi di ini itu telah mencapai 37,7 juta metrik ton. Kemudian kita bandingkan dengan tahun 2023 dengan waktu yang sama hanya 35,4 juta metrik ton. Jadi ada tambahan ya, ini kita tambahan produksi di tahun. Kemudian di dalam full price ya, jadi harga yang ditentukan dengan perkembangan harga batu bara dunia itu mengalami penurunan. Jadi di sektor batu bara memang mengalami penurunan di dalam harga, dan punya dampaknya tidak hanya di Indonesia tetapi di seluruh perusahaan batu bara yang ada di Indonesia maupun di dunia. Harga yang kita capai, yang kita bisa jual di tahun 2023 sampai dengan bulan Juni yaitu $93 per tonnya. Sedangkan di tahun ini kita hanya mampu untuk jual dengan rata-rata $75 per tonnya. Oke, kemudian yang paling penting di sini adalah cost of production. Jadi berapa ongkos produksi untuk memproduksi satu ton batu bara. Ini kita biasanya kalau di dalam perusahaan batu bara kita selalu memperlihatkan bagaimana efisiennya gitu ya, satu perusahaan batu bara untuk memproduksi satu ton batu bara. Nah, di bumi sendiri rata-rata di tahun 2023 itu kita memproduksi sekitar $53 per tonnya ongkos produksinya. Jadi kalau misalnya harga dengan 93 masih ada yang di sana. Kemudian di tahun 2024 efisiensi masih bisa kita lakukan dan kita berhasil untuk menekan ongkos produksi menjadi $47 per tonnya. Dengan adanya penurunan harga batu bara dunia, tentunya ini masih bisa untuk cover dari harga jual terhadap ongkos produksi batu bara yang ada. Oke, kemudian di slide berikutnya kita akan mengenai guidance. Nanti Pak Dilip akan menerangkan lebih jauh dasar-dasar apa yang menjadi guidance kita di 2024. Di dalam production itu seperti tadi saya kemukakan di tahun 2023 full year itu kita berhasil mencapai angka 77,8 ya, hampir 78 juta ton. Targetnya tentunya di tahun 2024 ini ada kenaikan. Jadi kalau kita bisa antara 78 sampai 82 juta ton batu bara yang akan diproduksi di PT Bumi Resources antara KPT dan Marutin. Kemudian KPT sendiri 54 sampai 56 dan Marutin 24 sampai 26. Nah, kemudian di dalam harga kita targetkan harga yang akan bisa kita jual nantinya di kisaran 69 sampai 79 dolar per tonnya. Jadi kalau kemarin kita bisa berhasil jual dengan harga rata-rata yang saya katakan itu dengan dolar per ton, mungkin di kisaran itu masih ada harapan harga kita masih bisa targetkan di sana. Artinya tentunya dengan perkembangan harga batu bara dunia. Kemudian dalam hal cost, ya yang tadi kita sudah sempat elaborasi untuk tahun ini kita masih yakin untuk terutama KPC itu adalah memakai atau pengguna bahan bakar solar terbesar di Indonesia. Ya, jadi itu sangat mempengaruhi kalau misalnya ada kenaikan harga solar, tentunya ongkos produksi kita juga akan meningkat. Oke, next. Oke, next ini kita kasih kira-kira tren ya, harga international price ya, terhadap batu bara. Ini dari tahun 2001 kita lihat itu ada spike-nya cukup lumayan tinggi dari 2021 sekarang sampai 2024 turun, itu sudah tingkat sekali turun, dan trennya itu hampir rata-rata sama. Tetapi ada data yang aneh sedikit di sini kalau teman-teman lihat di sini adalah HBA ya, harga acuan batu bara Indonesia itu agak sedikit meningkat di tahun 2024. Jadi satu pembahasan tersendiri itu ya, agak ini juga di dunia kita turun, padahal di Indonesia kita juga. Oke, kemudian next ini juga di next page ini mengenai harga batu bara. Ini kira-kira forward price, artinya forecasting juga dari para penjual dan pembeli batu bara di dunia. Oke, saya langsung saja ke next operational highlight untuk ini di next page. Berikutnya di slide berikutnya. Ya, oke. Ini operational highlight-nya berdasarkan data di first half 2024. Kalau kita lihat comparison-nya antara KPC ya, salah satu anak usaha kita dan alumni, dan kemudian kita kombinasikan di antara keduanya. Kalau kita lihat di bawah kombinasi antara KPC dan alumni itu yang di dalam kotak, yaitu yang menjadi angka untuk KPC gitu kan. Di sini kita lihat Overburden Rainfall itu sekitar 337,6 dibandingkan dengan tahun lalu 355,1, jadi ada penurunan kurang lebih 5%. Dan kemudian strip rasio pengupasan juga mengalami penurunan sekitar 11%. Dan kemudian batu bara yang ditambang itu ada peningkatan, tadinya dari 35,4 juta ton jadi 37 juta ton, tadi sudah di atas. Kemudian penjualan, setelah kita menambang, kita juga penjualan itu ada peningkatan dari 34,6 juta ton menjadi 37 juta ton, artinya ada peningkatan sama 7% dari coal yang diproduksi dengan coal yang dijual itu sama peningkatan 7%. Nah kemudian harga ini kita bisa kita pungkiri, harga mengalami penurunan yang cukup signifikan, yaitu 19% berdasarkan harga batu bara dunia. Ini mungkin yang sangat lumayan memperkecil profit kita itu karena harganya ada penurunan, jadi kita juga menurunkan harga. Kemudian inventory juga kita turun dari 3,2,1 juta ton ada di lapangan. Oke, itu nanti kita akan diskusikan informasinya. Kemudian next, nah ini saya berikan sedikit gambaran mengenai curah hujan. Nah, kenapa curah hujan kita taruh selalu dalam situasi? Karena ini memang mempengaruhi jadwal produksi di lapangan ya, di KPC dan karena jika hujan sekali yang kita akan produksi buat operasional ya, operasional kita akan terhenti selagi hujan karena jalanan licin dan ada turunan, ada tanjakan ya, jadi itu sangat-sangat mengganggu aktivitas dari operasional produksi di lapangan. Nah ini kalau kita lihat curah hujannya dari bulan ke bulan, kita lihat ada peningkatan. Dulu tahun lalu itu di KPC itu peningkatan curah hujannya lumayan tinggi. KPC itu di Kalimantan Timur itu lumayan tinggi. Nah, kemudian di tahun ini bukan berhasil, artinya curah hujan menurun ya. Jadi kita berhasil meningkatkan produksi karena ada Tetapi di lain pihak pada masa selatan ya itu malah sudah hujannya berbeda dengan tahun lalu. Tahun lalu sudah hujannya turun, sedangkan di Kalimantan Timur naik. Kalau di tahun ini di Kalimantan Selatan malah hujannya naik. Ini juga tentunya akan mengganggu produksi dari PDT Arus ini. Kita lihat hasilnya di akhir tahun tentunya. Oke, next. Nah ini tabel one on one, selama sekali kita kasih ini supaya kita lihat lebih mudah. Datanya sama yang tadi, jadi October Info itu kita lihat ada penurunan 5% di tahun ini dibandingkan dengan tahun lalu. Tidak tambah batu bara yang ditambah dari produksi itu ada kenaikan 7%. Kemudian dan ada di sini operator performance export. Ini ada core sales berikutnya. Satu halaman. Oke, ini core sales juga kita tadi ya mengungkapkan 7%. Kemudian di sini ada sedikit rasio hasil pengupasan yang menurun. Ini sebenarnya satu yang baik, rasio pengupasan menurun dan menurunkan biaya. Kemudian next page. Ini ada production cost, ya, costnya turun 11%, supaya untuk mendapatkan margin yang lebih tinggi. Kemudian harga batu bara yang cukup signifikan menurunnya 9%. Nah, next. Di sini kita lihat sekarang average selling price. Jadi berapa sih total harga batu bara yang dijual oleh kami. Dari tahun ke tahun, kalau kita lihat di tahun 2021 itu memang rendah. Itu di awal-awal COVID. Kan semuanya chaos seperti saat itu. Nah itu harga rata-rata penjualan batu bara kita itu $67 sampai rendah. Nah kemudian di tahun 2022 itu ada peningkatan aktivitas ekonomi, ada pembukaan itu memang harga batu bara cukup melonjak tinggi dari harga 121. Kemudian melandai kembali ke harga 93 di tahun 2023 dan 2024 itu lagi. Kita harap ini akan mendapatkan harga yang sudah equilibriumnya. Jadi kemarin itu agak sedikit chaos di COVID naik ya, di 2020, 2021, 2022. Kemudian 2023 orang-orang sudah kembali beraktivitas. Sekarang mungkin ada beberapa industri yang sudah meningkat dan kita mengharap ada satu kecenderungan menuju ke equilibrium ya. Oke, kemudian next ini juga tadi ini produksi production cost. Ini kalau dilihat di sini ada semua. Yang kita lihat yang kita concern itu adalah yang di tahun 2023 itu cukup tinggi sebetulnya harga harga solar ya di sini bahan bahan di sini ya itu solar atau solar terbaik kita pakai itu lumayan cukup melandai 11% dari tahun 2023 awal sampai pertengahan tahun 2023. Nah di sini kita lihat bumi sendiri di tahun 2021 produksi cost-nya itu sangat rendah, dan juga sangat rendah. Kemudian di 2022 ada peningkatan aktivitas. Di tahun 2023 itu secara makro memang semua industri dan masyarakat secara makro ini kembali beraktivitas dengan mendapatkan harga-harga yang baru. Artinya ada satu fenomena ekonomi yang baru setelah selesainya COVID. Nah, kemudian perlu waktu ada lag time-nya dan itu mendapatkan satu perkembangan yang pada akhirnya di tahun 2000 pada yang kita lihat akan semakin stabil. Oke, kemudian next. Nah ini harga apa namanya, harga solar ya. Harga solar itu di sini kita lihat trennya agak sedikit berlawan dengan harga minyak dunia. Ya. Jadi diharapkan kita akan mendapatkan solar yang harganya makin menurun. Kemudian next, ini financial highlight. Kita masuk ke financial highlight. Nanti kita lihat dulu ini mengenai current reporting standar. Jadi standar yang akuntansi, secara akuntansi, secara accounting, standar laporan kita seperti ini. Kita mengikuti PSAK 111, di mana apa namanya, di sini ada aturan yang memang kita tidak melibatkan KPC dan ANIS secara konsolidasi. Jadi nanti di slide berikutnya coba kita lanjutkan ke slide berikutnya. Jadi ada 2 laporan nanti yang saya paparkan di sini. Kedua nanti, ya, ini standar tanpa KPC, karena KPC tidak dikonsolidasikan di sini. Kemudian next page. Ini kalau kita hitung jika KPC dimasukkan ke dalam konsolidasi di laporan keuangan. Ya. Nah, kenapa kita buat seperti ini? Karena gini, standar yang dibuat oleh Bumi Resource sesuai dengan aturan yang ada, itu kita memakai standar yang tanpa KPC. Dan kemudian kalau teman-teman mau memperbandingkan antara Bumi Resource dengan perusahaan lain misalnya, kita pakai yang data yang tentunya yang konsolidasi di mana KPC dengan segala aktivitasnya kita masukkan ke dalam laporan keuangan. Kemudian kalau kita lihat di next page, next lagi. Nah ini next page. Ini kita lihat, ini perbandingan adalah 2 tadi laporan yang satu tanpa KPC, satu konsolidasi masuk KPC. Ini di antara 2. Kita sandingkan 2 kolom ya, side by side. Jadi kita mulai dari laporan keuangan di 2024 first half itu di sebelah kiri, revenue kita itu di tahun 2024 kalau kita hitung secara konsolidasi itu mencapai 2,9 miliar dolar. Itu nanti dalam US, jadi kalau itu 2,9 miliar dolar US kalau kita bandingkan dengan revenue di dalam depan kita ada 11 untuk tahun 1 sorry, itu hanya 596. Oke. Kemudian operating profit 143 dikonsolidasi dan ada income tax, ya, ada income. Nah, kemudian net profit menjadi 134,9 juta dolar dibandingkan dengan tahun lalu waktu yang sama sebesar 93 juta dolar. Oke, nah ini yang owners to parent itu 84,9, itu sama ya, istilahnya kalau yang owners to parent. Nah, kemudian kalau kita lihat di sebelah kanan itu hanya laporan di bulan Juni 2020. Kemudian ya, next kita langsung lihat saja di tabel yang berikutnya. Untuk tahun 1. Next berikutnya. Next page. Sebelumnya lagi. Sebelumnya lagi satu lagi. Ya, ini kita lihat at glance kita lihat tadi revenue secara konsolidasi ya. Jadi ada kenaikan ada penurunan sebesar 13%. Kemudian gross profit turun menjadi sebesar 29%, jadi 259,8 juta dolar. Kemudian income seperti kita lihat di tabel keuangan itu ada penurunan 43%, operating margin dibandingkan tahun lalu, tahun sekarang itu tahun sekarang 5%, tahun lalu 5%. Kemudian income, ya, net income itu meningkat 4%, jadi 84,9 dari 80,8 ya untuk all indikator. Terus income untuk periode ini 134,9, ada penurunan 10%, jadi 15,1 juta ya yang hilang dari tahun lalu. Oke, kemudian ini next kita lihat equity ada peningkatan 3,3%, kemudian EBITDA ya kita lihat dari tahun ini ke tahun yang lalu itu LTM turun 24%. Kemudian next ini tabel EBITDA saya tempat aja. Next. Oke, next lagi cash balance. Ya, ini cash balance saya ambilkan aja. Ini dan kemudian ini satu lagi mengenai next mengenai kuasi reorganisasi. Nah, ini ada penjelasannya di sini. Mungkin teman-teman ada yang bertanya kemarin kenapa kok ini nggak jadi melakukan kuasi organisasi ya, karena adanya hal-hal yang berbenturan peraturan OJK yang sedikit asumsinya agak sedikit berbeda dengan apa yang kita harapkan. Kemudian ya tentunya kita mengikuti apa yang disarankan oleh OJK sehingga kuasi reorganisasi pada tahun ini batal diadakan. Kemudian kita masih harapkan mungkin di tahun depan masih bisa kita kejar untuk kuasi reorganisasi diselesaikan sehingga Bumi sendiri dapat membagikan dividen kepada para yang usaha. Itu ya kesimpulannya. Dan next ini next lagi ya teman-teman lihat sendiri ya, bisa lihat ya di jumlah yang kita ajukan dengan berbeda pendapat dengan hal ini. Kemudian next ini sedikit saya laporkan mengenai ESG data ya, ini ada beberapa memang yang kita menjadi challenge tersendiri bagi seluruh perusahaan dunia, terutama perusahaan yang berhubungan dengan energi fosil ya, masuk juga di batu bara dan minyak dan gas juga. Nah, ini yang mungkin bisa kita share adalah seberapa banyak sih kita spend untuk CSR gitu ya. Nah ini kalau ya semua CSR itu yang kita spend sampai saat ini 12 tahun di belakang itu 8,5 juta dolar sudah kita spend di lapangan ya, dari KPP Arutmin. Kemudian reklamasi lahan juga cukup banyak ya, sekitar 1.123 hektar di KPC dan 200 hektar di Arutmin. Kemudian ada juga pohon yang ditanam kembali, itu salah satu kewajiban kita sebagai penambang. Itu jumlahnya cukup signifikan. Kemudian ada gas emission dan safety performance. Rumah kita cukup baik ya dari KPP Arutmin dengan nilai yang cukup rendah ya 0,9. Oke, terakhir saya mungkin akan melihatkan ini hasil dari RUPS kemarin, RUPS tahunan Juni di bulan Juni 2024 itu komisioner tetap ada perubahan. Ada perubahan komisioner yang terakhir itu new itu sebagai komisioner yang baru diangkat. Kemudian di board of director next itu dengan orang-orang yang sama, yaitu perwakilan dari kedua pihak pemegang saham di sisi pemegang saham, artinya antara Salim Group, ya kombinasi antara Salim Group dengan Bakti Group, ya, ini sama-sama mewakili dari kedua grup of business dari keduanya, ya. Di situ kalau kita lihat board of director tetap dipimpin oleh salah satu terus keluarga Bakri, yaitu Pak Adhika Dorana Bakri, dan yang didampingi dengan Pak Agus Wilisambito sebagai wakil presiden direktur. Nah, ini tidak ada perubahan di dalam board of directors, dan satu perubahan di board of directors. Ini yang lainnya saya taruh di presentasi, mungkin teman-teman ada yang lihat KPC, ya, pertemuan kami di KPC di hari ini masing-masing ada, dan safety record dan beberapa awards dari kami yang telah kami dapatkan. Ya, kurang lebih di ESG itu kita tahun ini sampai bulan Juni kita telah mendapatkan award kurang lebih 15 di dalam bidang ESG dari berbagai macam sumber, baik nasional maupun internasional. Oke, saya rasa itu semua presentasi saya pada hari ini. Mungkin kita bisa lanjut, saya kembalikan ke pembawa acara, dan mungkin bisa lanjut ke question and answer. Terima kasih.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih Pak Reza atas pemaparan yang sangat komprehensif sekali, Pak. Semoga ini juga jadi pencerahan buat kita juga, ya. Karena memang beberapa hari ini saham bumi ini memang menjadi perbincangan yang hangat, terutama di market seperti itu, Pak. Nah, sebelum kita, jadi ini sudah ada beberapa pertanyaan, Pak, masuk ke dalam chat box. Tapi sebelum itu saya juga ada beberapa pertanyaan dari saya pribadi, Pak. Yang pertama, kalau saya boleh tahu, Pak, kan kalau kita lihat itu tadi ESP bumi itu dengan harga Newcastle Coal dan ICI itu kan relatif berbeda, ya. Mungkin boleh dijelaskan, Pak, komposisi untuk ESP itu kenapa bisa berbeda?
Nah, jadi ada pertanyaan, kita kumpulin aja dulu apa gimana? Pak Dilip,
Mungkin bisa dijawab satu-satu juga atau dikumpulin juga boleh.
Yeah, what is the question? Sorry.
No, question not from the Facebook. Question from
pertanyaannya tadi seputar ini, Pak. Kan kalau dari yang dipresentasikan oleh Bumi itu ESP Bumi dengan harga batu bara itu kan relatif berbeda. Mungkin bisa jelaskan juga mungkin ke teman-teman investor kenapa bisa ada perbedaan antara ESP dan harga batu bara seperti Newcastle Coal dan ICI 3 itu, Pak.
You have to look at basically how much we sell domestically, how much we sell in the DMO at the subsidized price, what is the energy level of the coal that we are supplying, what is the HBA price, and what is the international price, and what are the market conditions like. Because you have to produce what the market wants. The average CV, the average energy level of Bhumi, which includes KPC and Arutmin, is 5,067 GAR for KPC and 4,580 for Arutmin, and the average is 4,934. So when you are talking price, you need to talk about what is the energy level. And whatever is the price is tailored to HBA and its individual constituents. And whatever is the international price needs to be at the HBA level or at the higher level. If it is at the lower level, there is a penalty on royalty. So this is how the market operates. Now, if you are looking at how much does Bhumi produce, we have guided 78 million tons to 82 million tons this year. Out of the 78 million tons, let us assume that is the number for this year, domestic would be about 25 or 26 million tons. So 26 million tons out of 78 million tons is around 30 to 1/3 of what we produce. And out of the domestic, much of it is to PLN. Bhumi is the largest supplier. And you know that at the benchmark level, the subsidized price is 70, when the market price can be even double that. So we are supporting the government, we are subsidizing the government, we are supplying coal at subsidized prices. We are also paying the highest royalty that we pay in the coal sector. Now, if you take all these factors into account and you average them out for what we do, you will find that we are trying to do as much as we can optimally. We just cannot produce blindly. We have to produce what the market wants. We have to produce what PLN wants, which is a subsidized price. There is a DMO. We have to comply with the DMO. If we don't comply with the DMO, there are penalties. So it is not our choice on price. We have to go by market factors. And you must also understand that India and China are increasing domestic supply. Australia is restricting exports because they find it uneconomical to produce high-ranked coal at this point of time. Russia is disturbing the market. There is surplus, whether it's in Indonesia, whether it is in India, or whether it is in China. Now, all power plants seem to have 15 days to 21 days stock. But if you are looking at the rest of the year, when last year the benchmark was running at $120, $130, and our average price was around 80, that we realized. This year, the forward price curves of global Newcastle are seeming to be in contango, or can be at levels of 150 or 160 if global Newcastle index is to be relied upon. The problem really is market factors. Now, demand-supply imbalance. Indonesia is producing far more than what it should. So there is a surplus in Indonesia. There is a surplus in India. There is a surplus in China. All power plants have surpluses. Now, all these factors have to be taken into account when we are talking blindly about price. So each segment of what we sell is different. Selling to PLN is different. If you don't comply with anything of PLN, you are penalized even though you are supplying at 50% of the price. We are supplying to cement and fertilizers at less than HPA. Now that is affecting our average realized price. Now to answer your 5,300 and all that, now these are HPA. We are not very sure about what is the basis that they arrive at this price. But this is a government set price, so we have to accept it. If we supply below the HPA price, we get penalized for penalty. We pay on the full price of HPA. If we supply above the HPA, we have to pay extra royalty on the HPA. So we have to be very careful about how we produce and what we sell. Whatever we produce has to be what the market wants, and we don't like to keep stock. There is no point keeping money and working capital stuck in stocks. So it's a very challenging time at this point of time. But when we are looking at prospects for the rest of the year, the first half has been a profit which is higher than the first half of last year. And when we are looking at the second half, if the forward price curves are looking optimistic at 150, 160, we believe that there is scope for us to realize more margins. The challenge, of course, is volume. There's far too much of production going around. Government is encouraging that, and there is no production discipline at all. I think I've heard numbers that this year can be 700 million tons, 800 million tons, 900 million tons. Now what do? The DMO is 25%. Domestically, you cannot consume that amount. Then you are not able to comply with your DMO, then there are problems, which basically means there's a lot of product available for export, and that also brings down the export price, where producers compete with each other for the same kind of business. Now that is the environment and scenario that we are working in. And in that scenario, we are the largest. We do have loyal customers. So maybe we are more advantaged that way in view of our 30-year exposure to the market. And we are, of course, trying to see what we can do to increase and expand our market share. Everything depends upon weather. Everything depends on the mix. Everything depends on the supply-demand imbalance. Everything depends on geopolitics. Weather. If there are monsoons, there could be a spike in price. If the winter is very severe, there could also be restocking. So let us be realistic that while we cannot predict what is going to happen in the next 6 months or 1 year, we think that the prospects are bright. The price should sustain at levels of 140 to 160. And if the royalty structure can be levelized, Bhumi pays 32% of gross revenue as royalty. 32% of $6 billion basically means that out of the $6 billion revenue we earn in a year, 1/3 of that goes to the government. So we are left with 70% revenue. And when we are left with 70% of revenue, you take off the price subsidy for PLN, for fertilizer, and for cement. You look at profit sharing, you look at taxes and levies. Basically, it's a very challenging environment. And when we look at other resource sectors, we look at other coal companies, IUPs have a differential royalty which could be 7%. There's one other very large company which has the highest market cap in the coal sector. The royalty that is paid there is around 7.5%. Now, Bhumi is paying maybe 28 to 30%. So if Bhumi's royalty gets levelized to those kind of levels, you can imagine how much more it can add to revenue. So we are hoping that under the new administration, the new minister, the government will look kindlier and try and levelize it. Gold pays 3.5% royalty, metallurgical coal pays 3.5%, IUPs pay 7.5%, IUPKs pay 28% to 30%. So there is definitely a need, because if we are able to levelize that, then maybe it will be possible to accelerate our entry into the non-coal ambitions that we have, which I think Reza touched upon and which we are working on separately. Does that answer the question, Ibu Rita?
Yeah, I think so.
Ya, itu very answer my question, Pak. Thank you so much. Jadi mungkin betul juga, saya juga setuju. Memang untuk in terms of royalty, Bhumi pace-nya itu very much above industry average ya. Jadi ya kita semoga aja berharap ini bisa di-levelize dan bisa dapat additional revenue. Nah, mungkin ada beberapa pertanyaan yang sebenarnya menurut saya juga cukup lumayan penting, Mr. Dilip dan Pak Reza. Saya ingin tahu aja, untuk kemarin kan sempat ada isu tentang kuasi reorganisasi. Nah, mungkin bisa diberikan timeline kepada para investor di sini, kira-kira kapan jadwal realisasinya ya Pak? Kalau boleh dijelaskan.
Reza, can you take them through the slide number 27 and 28? Maybe they've missed it.
Ya, tadi bisa
All right, let me just put it simpler. Very few companies have been able to do a CASI reorganization in Indonesia. The first such attempt was by Garuda many, many years ago. I am not aware of any other event. I think we might have been second or third, and I think Bakri and Brothers has followed. Now there's an existing regulation, I forget the number, E115, I think, 2012 or 13 that was amended. That has to be complied with 100%, and there is no flexibility whatsoever in changing that regulation. What is the regulation about? If the company has negative retained earnings, and Bhumi has about $2.3 billion of negative returned earnings because of previous losses and adjustments, it cannot pay dividend. So the first thing we have to do is to neutralize the negative retained earning and make it positive. Now, how do you make it positive? The government does have one scheme, which is CASI reorganization. I'll invite you to read the regulation. Bhumi complied with every parameter for CASI reorganization. The only factor that it did not comply with, according to our esteemed regulator, was on the issue of what profit to use. Retained earnings are based on profit on attributable income, that is, of the percentage assets that you own, which is 51% of KPC, 90% of Arutmin, 20% of BRMS, maybe 23% of Nirma. So we applied attributable income because that is the same basis for working out the retained earnings. The regulation essentially says profit. It does not define what that profit is. So our figures met all the formula, all the requirements on the basis of using attributable net profit, excluding minority, which we don't own. However, when the proposal was put up and we had consulted our auditor, we had consulted people who are knowledgeable in this area, it satisfied all the accounting principles. However, when the proposal was put up, it was established that the profit figure to be used is total income, including minorities, which basically means even those companies where we may own 20%, we will still have to use the total income as if we own 100%. But the retained earnings are only counted on attributable income. So there was a dichotomy. But the law is inflexible. And even though we tried to reason out that logically and accounting principle wise we are okay, I think in this case, the law is law and we were able to comply. So we have had to cancel the proposal for CASI reorganization based on the full year 23 audited results. Now let us wait for full year 24 audited results and see what they are. We will apply the same formula and principles that are applied, and we will try and see if we fit within the requirements of existing regulation. If we do, then we will proceed with it, but I don't think it can happen before the middle of next year. So that is where it is. And I think in the case, I don't want to talk about Bakri and Brothers, you can talk to them themselves. They had used attributable income, I am told, but Their total income also complied with the formula, so they were okay, and that was approved. There are other options to also reduce negative retained earnings, which is through profit, which is through additional paid up capital, which is through asset revaluation. Now, those are in the realm of uncertainty, and we cannot say anything about it at this stage. If opportunities like that come up, we can even consider doing something like that, and then doing a mixture of the various options and a CASI reorganization. But what I want to emphasize to our investment fraternity, that whether it is Salim, whether it is Bharti, whether it is Treasury Global, whether it is China Investment Corporation, whether it is the institutional shareholders, whether it is retail investors, esteemed such as yourselves, the priority of the company is foremost to resume dividends again to our shareholders. All the shareholders want it. And that is a foremost management priority, and we will do our best to see how we can do it as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the law is law. So we have to comply with that. So let's see how it goes. But I want to assure that paying dividends is a very high management priority.
Thank you, Pak. Yeah, and I agree. Ini mungkin menjadi sinyal bagus juga untuk investors ya, karena memang banyak yang sudah menanyakan apakah Bumi akan membagikan dividen seperti itu. Nah, ini mungkin menjadi angin segar juga ya bagi para shareholder dan juga mungkin prospektus investor ya untuk Bumi. Nextnya mungkin ini ada pertanyaan yang menurut saya juga cukup menarik ini, Pak.
Can I just add? Can I just
boleh,
add?
silakan, Pak. Boleh, silakan, Pak.
I will add to my statement. In the interim, what is company strategy? If CASI reorganization happens, it happens, it's good for all of us. But the company is busy building value for KPC, Arutmin, and our assets. And we believe that we can add more value through our mineral and resource assets and gold assets in BRMS, which should have a multiplier effect with their production plans. We also have ambitions to get into non-coal projects, which I cannot actually define at this stage because they are in various stages of discussion with partners. It definitely requires government support on incentives and all that, so a lot of discussion is going on. Even overseas collaborators and partners are wanting certain certainties, wanting some certainty and agreements on that front. So we are all busy trying to do that. Now, all those are going to increase value for the company. Whether it is the coal business, we are digitalizing, we are going into AI regenerative, we are trying to cut costs. McKinsey is involved, Boston Consulting Group is involved. So we are trying to see how efficient we can get and how we can cut costs. And the cost cutting is reflected. We've reduced our strip ratio, even though the price has come down. The volume is slightly up, but costs are going down. Our problem is very high royalty. Now, over that, we don't have a control. Our second problem is the price subsidy. We are the largest supplier to PLN in Indonesia. And that makes a heavy dent on our revenue and bottom line. So we are very focused on cost optimization, on efficiency, on digitalization, on replacing fossil fuels with biodiesel and other things for our equipment. Now, in the interim, we are trying to increase value. And you will notice that when Salim and others came in 2 years ago, they paid a share price of 120. And thereafter, I think the share price went up for about a few months for 186. Then a lot of things happened in between to the sector and to everybody, so everything came down. If you look at the end of last year, Bumi ended at 85. And if you look at this year, the lowest it reached was 72. And the highest it has reached is 97. But on closing, it is at 94 yesterday. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was 94 yesterday. So that's an 11% increase over what it was last year. And the reason, and we've been trying to assess what the reasons are for the increase. All we can see is that it was the earnings call on 15th August. Before that, the share price was 74, 75. Now, there has been a fair amount of activity thereafter. And we have found that Bhumi being a super beta anyway, good news drives it up, bad news really drives it down. So I think that there is some accumulation of stock going on by maybe some who had sold when it was at high levels. And then they bought back at lower levels. And I think that sequence is going on. But we are very happy to say that Bhumi has entered MSCI Small Cap Index for Indonesia over the last 1 year. FTSE in the UK, it is there in the 5 indices. And they remain there even in the latest review, which means overseas investors are investing in Bhumi. The index funds like BlackRock, like others. Institutional funds in Indonesia are still very shy about getting in. So we are also wondering whether we can at some stage enter LQ45. We have the market cap, we have the trading volume, we have the frequency of trading. It's a very liquid stock. It satisfies all the parameters. And we are hoping one day that the IDX might see reason and should deem it fit to include it, because that will mean institutional funds can enter. Now, this is the future I'm talking about. That Bhumi will optimize efficiencies, upgrade efficiencies in their coal business, because that is the cash cow for the future. Bhumi is debt-free. It is the only company in the sector which does not have debt. So it is ideally positioned to finance green projects and other things, whatever we get into Bhumika. And we are looking at downstream, but there's a lot of feasibility and incentives that are required, a lot of discussion with foreign partners, etc. So it's a bit early to talk about it. I don't think any other company has entered it. And the other thing we are looking at is in the resource and metal space, which we cannot say too much about. But maybe by the end of the year, we might say more. But suffice it to say, whether it is Salim, whether it is CIC, whether it is Treasury Global or Bakri, all of them have the same objectives of enhancing value for the company. And by that, we want to reward our long-suffering shareholders who have not got dividend for the last 11 years. And we hope that we can make it up through the share price. That depends upon how you all form your view on the company. I think only Samuel covers Bhumi. I don't think any other analyst covers it. But they like trading in it. I mean, the maximum trade I see is by security houses who don't write about it. It seems they know a lot about Bhumi, but they don't want to write about it. So it's always a good opportunity, whether Ibu Rita and yourself, to interact directly with you and with the investment community. And they are most welcome to talk to us and send us messages. If they want to meet us, we'll be very happy. If they want to visit our coal mines and talk to our people, we'll be very happy. ESG and everything else, we are the best. I mean, we don't want to boast about it, but it's all there out in the open. So our game basically is in the interim capital value appreciation and dividends and new projects. And those are the ones that will excite value for the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak. Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you also so much. Yeah.
Okay, Farah, I'd like to add something.
Yeah, Bu,
if I may.
silakan, Bu. Yeah, boleh, Bu.
Okay. Bhumi, I believe, when October cabinet are in place, I estimate will be again the darling of Indonesia stock collection. Whoever don't collect right now, I think they will regret. Bumi have a strong shareholder. They have CIC there. They believe in them. CIC is China's sovereign wealth that has been with them almost 15 years. And there's Salim there. There's Agus Projo that is very successful with Aman. There is still Bakri Group there that has always give many Indonesian also profit and like to see the share with high valuation going up. But we hope that retail will go back and buy and hold and wait, not just trading it. As you know, KPC is the world largest coal exporter. Their cost is very low because they have a very close kilometer to the port. So all shareholder is strong, balance sheet is clean, customer buyer is there, and I think coal still will be there. So please don't forget to collect Bumi now. Buy and hold. I believe it will reach much higher than what it is today. Okay, that's all I can put. I love Bumi share. Okay, and I believe Bumi share, and thanks to Rita for promoting to the retail so that the retail in Indonesia don't miss out. Downside limited, upside a lot. That's I believe. Okay, I may be wrong, but I believe in that. I believe in Dilip. I believe in the team.
Ibu Biming, thank you. I mean, it's good to hear your view. As you know, we don't really comment on the share price. We leave that as an investment decision by investors. Let them form their own view. But I do want to say that when Salim's and Treasury Global got into the bought into Bumi and became controlling shareholder, the share price was 120. And from the chartists that I have seen through technicals, whether it's Samuel or whether it's Maybank or whether it's others, it seems to be indicating that once it crosses 100, that there's a good chance that it can rise to a level of 110, 120, which is what the level was. And that seems to be some speculation in the market, but I'm just repeating it because that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I believe that you will get there to pay dividend. I believe that.
You see, Miming, we are doing our level best. It is not just CASI reorganization. There are other ways, but those are unpredictable and we cannot predict, whether it can happen. Now, as you know, KPC is badly undervalued. I think it's got the value of 2003. But we cannot do anything on that front unless a shareholder wants to sell. And I think it's a very profitable asset, so I doubt if anybody would. So there are various ways to approach it. One, of course, is to have super profit and have the royalty structure change so that we can generate more and accelerate the process. But those are all imponderables. So we are approaching it one by one, step by step. And in the interim, we are making our business more efficient. We've got the best talent available to do that. And we are hoping we can sustain ourselves. We are debt-free with a very clean balance sheet. And we think we have a head start should we decide to fund projects which are outside the coal business. And those are future value drivers. The coal sector is good. It is here to stay. And I'm sure many of you are aware that Glencore, which is one of the largest coal producers in the world, who are also a marketing agent, they had earlier said that they are exiting coal on grounds of the green hysteria. But now their investors have told Glencore that your profit has fallen by 1/3. And if your profit has fallen by 1/3, then we will not allow you to exit coal. So you have to get back into coal. So they have reversed their policy and said that they will now continue coal and growing the coal business. And that's a trend. BlackRock, who had earlier said we will not invest in coal, are investing in coal. Dimension said in US that we will not invest in coal, they are investing in coal. It's all because of investor pressure and profitability. You would have also read that 2 US coal companies have merged, Arch Coal and Consolidated Energy. So consolidation also seems to be a trend in the coal sector. I think it is something for the sector to take note that there is strength in unity, there is strength in cutting costs. And definitely, if there's a merger of any sort, it basically means it makes the operation far more efficient. I'm talking at the general level.
Yes, I agree, Pak. I very much agree with what Bu Miming and you said that nanti ketika ada Oktober nanti udah ada kabinet baru, ini mungkin memang betul, saya juga setuju jadi darling karena memang tadi ya kembali lagi royaltinya itu relatively very high ya Pak ya, maksudnya 20% something compared to industry average itu around 7% something. Oh,
No,
sorry,
no,
20%
Pak.
ya?
It is not
20% ya Pak ya?
It is not 20% something. Last year, for the full year, was 32% of gross revenue.
32%?
Correct.
Wow.
And in the first 6 months of this year, we are at 28 or 29%.
Iya, that's almost 4 times the industry average ya Pak ya. Ya makanya jadi I agree. Nanti maybe kita bisa lihat lagi kalau misalnya
That is
ada
equal the difference 20 if you're paying only 7 like what some other companies are doing, and you're dropping royalty by 20%, and if your gross revenue is 6 billion or 7 billion, then you're actually earning more, $1.4 billion more on revenue. You will be probably the most profitable company in the sector.
I agree. Yeah.
Don't worry, Dilip, you will get there. I have confidence.
Miming, you've always been a supporter, so I value your opinion. Thank you very much. We haven't met for over a couple of years, but I think we should do that.
Iya Pak, please come. Okay, maybe kita mungkin cerita untuk one final question. Apakah bisa?
No, you can keep asking as many as you want because it's a good opportunity for us to equate with you and your investor.
Oke, itu pertanyaan kamu ambil dari ini ya, dari
Dari chat box.
yes. Oke, Pak Reza udahlah. Ini ada yang menarik nih kayak tadi. Dari mana tadi kok kebaca hilang? Ada yang menarik nih dari Papa Bob, I think. Banyak sih ini masih pertanyaannya, tapi
Iya,
waktunya
iya.
kita sangat terbatas. Mungkin satu
Mungkin ini
pertanyaan.
ada pertanyaan menarik nih cerita
Iya, silakan.
terkait apa? Karena kan pemerintahan yang baru nanti kan sangat mengedepankan hilirisasi ya Pak ya. Jadi mungkin lebih pengen tahu aja nih gimana kedepannya bumi di tengah-tengah tema hilirisasi dan tadi kan you just said that China and India inventory itu udah relatively surplus. Jadi mungkin ada target market lain kah yang bisa dituju gitu selain dua negara tersebut? Mungkin bisa dijelaskan lagi Pak.
Yeah, I mean, these are trends. India has already said that they are expanding coal power plant capacity and they are investing in new coal capacity. And Coal India, which is the largest producer in India, from 600 million to 700 million, plan to go up to 1 billion tons, if not more. So India is basically saying that, look, we want to be self-sufficient in coal as much as we can. It may take us some time, but we are not closing down our power plants. We are adding more power plants. Yes, we are also investing in renewables. And we may even have a matching capacity for renewables. But we don't want to be 100% reliant on renewables. If something happens to renewables, you have to fall back. If something happens to If there's a problem with coal, then you have the renewables. So it's an insurance. And if you look at China, they are following the same policy. They are adding renewables and they are increasing coal producing capacity. And they're just increasing the number of power plants. And the philosophy of India and China, even though, it may be different, but there's a common streak that both are investing in fossil fuels for power. At the same time, they are investing in renewables, but they are investing in renewable capacity. There is very little of the renewables actually being produced which is replacing coal. And renewables are always unreliable, and there's a cost factor attached to it. And they cannot be stored, so there's a huge investment. So I think the cost benefit, versus fossil fuels, obviously needs to be understood in greater detail. The levelized cost of electricity, which people very popularly use, doesn't make sense because it doesn't have the full cost of storage and transmission. And if there's no sun, there's no solar. If there's no wind, there's no wind. If there are floods or there's a drought, there's no hydro. So what do you do? And in a country like Indonesia, we don't have nuclear as yet. And we only have coal. So what do we do?
Iya, I agree. Iya. Ini pertanyaan sebenarnya relatif sudah ini. Nah, tapi ini ada satu pertanyaan nih Pak baru masuk juga dan ini juga cukup menarik. What is the nearest digital company action ya Pak untuk boost the income terlepas dari tadi yang high royalty rate tadi. Mungkin tadi kan Pak Dilip juga sudah mention kalau kedepannya akan ada banyak inisiatif yang dilakukan. Mungkin boleh Pak sedikit dijelaskan kira-kira apakah ada corporate action dilakukan atau apakah ada ekspansi selanjutnya gitu supaya nge-boost production gitu di tengah-tengah itu tadi royalty rate-nya juga relatively high gitu Pak.
Not relatively high, relatively very, very high.
Yes, I agree. Very so very high, Pak.
CCOWs are only paying 13.5%. That was part of the original contract. KPC and Arutmin were paying 13.5% up to 2021. Suddenly it's gone up to 30, 35.
Wow, iya, betul sih. Oke, mungkin ini I think this will be my last question Pak, karena memang beberapa pertanyaan juga sudah di
last or second last.
Last one, because after this we are going for the technical session where also I put Bumi as one of the most interesting stuff.
All right, okay, we'll go with one question then.
Okay,
we'll go one question Pak. Tadi kan Bapak mention ya kalau balance sheet-nya tuh relatively clean gitu. Mungkin ini ada beberapa investor yang agak kemis Pak. Kira-kira ini kan utangnya sudah turun banyak nih gitu. Ini mungkin bisa dijelaskan kok bisa sih Pak gitu. Debt levelnya ini turun dan kedepannya apakah capital structure-nya akan di-maintain se-clean sekarang seperti itu Pak?
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
Yeah, so there's a question from the chat box. Jadi debt levelnya kan sudah relatif turun ya Pak ya, dan sekarang capital structure-nya ini sudah relatively clean ya Pak ya. Nah ini mungkin bisa dijelaskan kenapa bisa turunnya itu lumayan signifikan dan going forward is the same capital structure is going to be maintained.
Yes, because we believe that if you are going into renewables and other projects, you are not going to do it 100% on your own. You will have partners. And the debt equity component of the new projects, is usually 25, 75, 30, 70, and then the 30 depends upon what is the mix of the shareholding. So we doubt whether it will be running into billions at this stage. I mean, we're looking at small numbers. So if you notice last year versus this year, or you notice December 23 versus June 24, our net equity has actually gone up by about $100 million. Our total liabilities have gone down by $200-300 million. Now those are the kind of things that are happening which unfortunately don't get noticed and we don't focus too much on it. But we are getting there.
Iya Pak, iya, I
And
agree.
we have very, very alert, controlling and significant shareholders who scrutinize each number. And nothing can be done without approval.
Iya, I agree. I think investors should take note of that. Oke. Terima kasih banyak Pak Dilip atas jawaban yang very komprehensif ya Pak ya.
Yes.
I hope this will be a fresh air lah for current shareholders and future shareholders. Nah, tapi memang kurang lengkap ya kalau kita belum ada technical analysis review dari Cirita. Mungkin Cirita boleh,
Okay.
The floor is yours, silakan.
Okay, thank you. So this will be some stock that are very interesting for next week, including Bumi. Okay, we are
Thank you.
going. Okay, this is a technical review for next week. Disclaimer as usual. So for the stock, for the IHSG itself, untuk bullish skenario, jika IHSG berhasil break 7350 dan selama koreksi dan tetap bertahan di 7350, potensi rally berkelanjutan akan menuju target inverted head and shoulder pattern dengan target indeks di 8080. Tapi ternyata kalau misalnya bearish skenario, IHSG itu gagal break resistance uptrend line dan di upper Bollinger Bands di 7580. Jadi IHSG itu berpotensi reversal dalam jangka pendek menuju FR 23,6 di 7455, kemudian FR 78,2 di 7368 dan FR 7298. Ini beberapa support-support penting yang perlu kalian ketahui. Dan untuk sektor rotasi sektor yang improving ini ada IDX Trans, IDX Tech, IDX Cyclical, Property, Industry, dan Finance. Yang masih di leading ada di IDX Energy. Kemudian yang weakening ada di Health dan Basic. Kemudian yang lagging ada di Non-Cyclical dan Infra. Dan untuk yang daily ini beberapa yang lagi naik ke improving ada IDX Tech, IDX Infra, dan IDX Energi ini juga masih di leading dan tetap menarik dan termasuk cyclical. Nah kalau finance kan kemarin rame banget ya, kita bisa lihat bahwa secara weekly ini saham apa nih yang boleh kita pantau. Biasa kita lihat dari improving. Untuk weekly sektor IDX Finance ini yang menarik ada BBYB, ada BTPS, BBRI, BBNI, kemudian ada BANK, ada Agro, ada BBKP, dan ada Arto yang ada di leading. Kemudian ada satu nih nggak kelihatan sih sebenarnya, Saratoga ini juga masih di leading, AHAP masih di leading, Bank Mandiri, dan yang agak kehilangan momentum adalah Penin Bank dan Penin Life ini agak turun, dan Bris ini juga ada di weakening. Dan yang lagging itu ada Bevin, ada Amar, BGTG, BTPN, Bank Niaga, BBNI. Kemudian yang non-cyclical ada WIM, ada Gosco, ada MPPA, HMSP. Kemudian yang di leading ada Main, Emrat, Java, TAPG, DSNG. Yang weakening ini ada Cimori, dan yang lagging itu banyak ya, ada Gudang Garam, ada Hoki, ada Unilever. Nah kemudian ini saham pilihan untuk minggu depan termasuk Bumi, karena Bumi itu menguat dan break point B di 86 perak. Karena break di level tersebut maka Bumi itu akan kembali rally menuju PRZ bad pattern di target 106. Jadi buy area bisa dilakukan di 97 hingga 90 dengan target pertama 100, target 106, stop lossnya di 86. Kemudian ada BRMS yang gak kalah menarik karena BRMS ini rebound dari FR 50% di 147 dan akan tes last high di 167. Jika break level 167, maka BRMS ini berpotensi membentuk cup with handle dengan target 220 secara teknikal. Rekomendasi untuk BRMS adalah buy if break 167, buy area bisa kalian lakukan di 165 hingga 154 dan target 1180, target 2200, stop loss 150. Kemudian ada PTBA. PTBA ini break resistance kuat jangka pendek. Jadi jangka pendek itu 2740 tuh resisten yang kuat ya. Nah ternyata tuh berhasil di break. Kalau dia berhasil break di level tersebut akan membuka potensi buat PTBA membentuk bottom pattern, rounding bottom pattern di target 3000. Dan bayarnya bisa dilakukan di 28 hingga 2780, target 129, target 23000 dan stop lossnya di 2700. Kemudian ada Penny Life yang kemarin break resisten kuat jangka pendek 366. Jika break level tersebut akan membuka potensi untuk Penny Life membentuk double bottom pattern di 464. Rekomendasi teknikal untuk Penny Life ada buy, bayarnya bisa dilakukan 388 hingga 370, target 1390, target 2410 dan stop loss 364. Kemudian ada Jekon yang menguat dan break resisten di 100. Jika dia bertahan di level tersebut akan membuka peluang untuk Jekon untuk kembali rally menuju target double bottom pattern di 125. Rekomendasi teknikal adalah buy, bayarnya bisa dilakukan di 100 hingga 107. Target 113, target 2125 dan stop loss 98. Dan kemudian ada Bank BBNI yang koreksi tapi dia bertahan di support sebelumnya yang menjadi resisten di 5150. Jika dia bertahan di 5150 maka BBNI ini berpotensi rally lanjutan menuju target flag pattern di 6200 dan bayarnya bisa dilakukan di 5550 hingga 52,5, target 157, target 262 dan stop loss 5150. Oke, mungkin itu yang bisa saya sampaikan untuk technical sesi di minggu ini. Mungkin ada closing statement dari Mr. Dilip to the viewers here and the stakeholder.
Sorry, Ibu.
Yeah, maybe you have a closing statement for the viewers here and all your stakeholders. Maybe they would like to hear something for the closing before we end this session.
Well, Ibu Rita, we have had a very challenging year last year. And in fact, even this year. So the market has also been very wavy, uncertain. There have been geopolitical issues.
Yes.
There have been economic issues. There have been wars. And a fair amount, has happened, where we've had to respond reflexively and sometimes proactively, but it has always not been easy. And government regulation has to be complied with, which we must do. So if you add everything together, it's been a very challenging year, but I'm glad that we've come out of it.
Yes.
With our head above water. And that we contribute 35-40% of our gross revenue to the government as dividend.
Okay.
So we are a good national citizen. And we always meet and exceed our DMO. Now, I want to thank you for this opportunity because, frankly, we have not had the opportunity to do this for over a year and a half. We've been sending out announcements, we've been having earnings calls, and I've been inviting people to join. And I've always invited them that if they have a question, if they want to visit our mine, if they want to meet our people, they are most welcome. They can send me a message. Reza is there. We can arrange everything. If there's a doubt, or if you need clarity, or there is something that you heard by way of a rumor, if you want to confirm something, we'd be very happy to confirm that so that you're sure about what is the company position and it's not just mere speculation.
Yes.
And yes, we believe each investor is independent. And we believe that they need to make up their own mind. And it is really up to them to be satisfied with the information and data that they have. And then take their own personal investment decision.
Yes.
So we don't really like to influence people in the way they invest. But we like to demonstrate that Bhumi is transparent.
Yeah.
It answers every question. The management is open.
Exactly.
And we are willing to discuss any doubts you may have or any rumors that you hear. And if there's anything we wish to announce, we make sure that everyone gets it. So if any of your people who are on this call, if they wish to be on Bhumi's investor relations mailing list for announcements. We'd be happy to get their email IDs. Bhumi is also active on social media sites, such as LinkedIn and Instagram and all kinds of things. So we are hoping that maybe if they follow the social media, they can also follow Bhumi as well, because there's a fair amount of announcements we do, particularly on the softer areas such as ESG, emissions, gender equality. In fact, IDX is holding a program for lady managers and above on gender equality, and we are participating in the program. And all lady managers and above, from Bhumi would be joining there. And we are very proud in KPC that there's gender equality which can be visibly demonstrated. We even have 360-ton dumper trucks where the drivers are ladies. And let me tell you that the ladies drive with more discipline than some of their male counterparts. So we are very happy with their commitment, loyalty, and the kind of work that they put. So we lay a lot of stress on that as well.
Yeah.
So feel free. Thank you very much for joining.
Okay.
And I want to thank you personally for taking the initiative. I know that I was away for a long time.
Yes,
I know
it
that
is.
you invited me a few times before.
Yeah. I think I invite you before the Salim also joined you. But you were so busy at that time because I think for the
a bit of a difficult period. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dilip.
But thank you very much to all the listeners and the people who joined. And like you say, that this call is recorded and is on YouTube and all that.
Yes. So if you want to share to your other investor who cannot join here, so you can always.
If I get the link, I can let them know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dilip and Bhumi.
Not at all. And have a good weekend, whatever little there is left, because Bhumi has taken much of your weekend.
Faras, ada tambahan nggak untuk closing statement?
And can I get a copy of your technical review?
Yes, thank you. So if the shares can reach our target, then we usually update the newest target. And we always review whether the stock is already still have the chance to go up. Then we will always update with the newest target.
You see, it's like this. Bhumi has 110,000 shareholders.
Oh, okay.
Now, the top 10 or 20% may account for 70-75%, but the remaining 25% is spread over 100,000 shareholders. So we have a huge community.
Yes.
And we are looking at ways on how we can reach out to them.
Okay.
We can go to Bandung, we can go to Surabaya, we can go to Malang,
Fair.
go to Medan, we can
So
do it
you
in Jakarta. Now, we are open to all that.
Oh, okay. So you are willing to do the offline meeting as well, so you can present
Yes,
the
of
thing?
course.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And if people want to come and meet us, we are happy. If they want to have an arrangement where management can be there and they can ask questions, we can do that.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Faras, before we close, maybe you have something to say?
Dari saya sih nggak ada, tapi mungkin dari Bu Miming ada closing statement sedikit, boleh?
Good luck everybody in believing and investing Bhumi, and thank you so much, Rita, for hosting it and educating the market about Bhumi.
Yes.
As I said, I believe in Bhumi and Bhumi management and Bhumi asset and Bhumi clean balance sheet, and I think the stock will fly.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, good luck, investor.
Okay. Thank you so much for Mr. Dilip and Bhumi once again. And thank you, Bu Miming, Faras, and Samuel Sekuritas for supporting our educative webinar today. So hopefully most investors will get the brighter or clearer future about our ideas about Bhumi in the future. How is Bhumi going with the quasi reorganisation and etc., and also improving fundamental too.
Absolutely, because it's not just quasi reorganization. We want to increase capital value.
Okay. Okay, maybe we close here. Thank you all. Happy weekend and stay healthy and happy Chuan.
Terima kasih banyak.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Pak
Faras.
Dilip.
Yeah,
Thank you, Pak Dilip. Thank you,
It's been a
Kirita.
wonderful job.
thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you all.
And Miming,
Have a
we
good
must.
weekend.
Miming, thank you for spending so much time.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Miming.
I really appreciate your being here, and it's good to see you on screen.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Bye
Kirita.
bye.
Thank you, Pak Dilip.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you. And I
Aduh.